The Pistons are the basketball champions of the world.
Detroit, it's time. It's playoff time, Detroit. Let's go to work.
Shout out Detroit. I got to buff up, you know what I'm saying? Detroit, I'm all the way in. Detroit Pistons, I'm all the way in. Let's do it.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Buffs On Podcast. We are the best POD in the 313. Season preview number 2 coming at you guys today. We did the guards last week, and today we're coming at you with the wings. We'll talk about Ausar, Bogey, Livers, Harris, Rhoden, and Cazalon as well. We just roped Cazalon in with these guys. Cazalon, Rhoden, kind of same height and weight, so just put them together. So let's jump right into it. Let's talk about the guy. We ranked these guys on how we felt were most important to the team. We put Ausar at number 1 because we're for sure going to need him to be something for this Pistons team to be in any sort of contention, not only this season but beyond. So, Connie, talk to us about what you're looking forward to from Ausar Thompson this season.
I think what I'm most looking forward to, I think what the Pistons have built towards well so far is being a really fast team and him being a really fast player. I think Ausar has basically every trait that you would want in a guy that's going to run good fast breaks. He can start a fast break. He's shown that he can toss those full court and half court, like after taking a dribble on the outlet, clean outlet passes to runners. He also has the same capability to throw dinkers and dumper passes to other runners when he's closer up to the hoop. There was that one where in Summer League, Duran ran the break, kicked it up to Ausar, and Ausar in one motion grabbed it and kicked it behind his back to James Wiseman for a huge dunk. So he has the full court passing, he has the half court passing. He obviously has the ridiculous athleticism. I think it's a debate that we should have who's the most athletic person on the Pistons right now, because I would say it's really up in the air. But
that's funny.
And yeah, up in the air. That man can hammer down dunks. He can finish on his own. He can catch lobs. He can do things in stride. He's a very smooth athlete. I think what I'm most looking forward to is he is just like a fast, like prototypical fast break build. I would be surprised if he doesn't get like 4 to 6, or no, I'm not gonna say it, like 4 points a game just running. And that's what I'm really happy.
For sure, and we saw some of that in the Rico Hines runs. He was running the break. His defense was turning into offense, and who knows how many times that's going to happen. I mean, he held his own against Russell Westbrook on a drive, disrupting a little floater up close. So, we talked about it. He blocked a step back 3-2 and turned that into offense as well. So it'll be fun. And he's, as you kind of mentioned, he's also a playmaker. So transition, he has the ball, you're not really too concerned about it. So like you said, he's a prototypical guy that just can get out and run, turn defense into offense. Gabe, what are your thoughts on Ausar Thompson?
Yeah, starting off with the positives, it's pretty clear that on one end of the court, he is an insane difference maker from day one. We haven't had, at least not that I can think of off the top of my head, if you don't count Stanley Johnson, like a wing, just lockdown defender. What's the last player? Tony Snell? Does he count? KCP, I guess.
Definitely does not count, Gabe. I'd go Jeremy Grant.
Jeremy Grant,
yeah, I guess. But he's more of, I don't know.
Livers?
Yeah. Well, yeah, we'll get to him. But yeah, so just being a defensive stalwart, really. I think that's his road to get minutes this season. We saw in the Summer League, he's a really good passer. He's a natural passer. He doesn't need the ball in his hands for a long time. He gets it and then zings it along to the next player. The one positive, aside from his defense, the one area where I think he can find court time is just being a kind of moldable player, jack of all trades type of player, where I don't think his offense will be reliable, and I guess we'll talk about that later probably, but just being able to do a lot of things that don't require the ball or that require the ball for a short amount of time, I think will be his key this season. I'm excited to watch him play, and I think he would win that athleticism competition on our team.
That's a good take right there.
I would take Duran for that contest if we want to get a little bit off track.
I'm gonna take Ivy. We're getting real off track.
Let's get real off track. I have no idea who I would take. Isaiah Livers.
Might be the big
Yeah,
thing.
no.
His defense is really just it was really impressive in its versatility. Like he was like so he was locking up on the perimeter versus Westbrook, Powell. He blocked. It was Jesus. Now I'm forgetting every person's name.
Powell on the step back.
No, Powell
Yeah.
on the step back. He was a guy in the Lakers. He played for the Hawks. Forward. He's been kind of a journeyman.
Cam Reddish.
Cam Reddish.
He's on the Lakers.
He's on the Lakers.
Yeah.
Or he was on there. I think he is.
He's there now. Yeah, I think he's there now.
That's who's fast break block, but also like helping on getting weak side blocks, helping around the rim, like using that pogo stick athleticism. He had a nice one in the summer league. That it's really versatile defense. It's not just one type of defense, and I think that's what's like hugely important in the NBA today. Like for like Avery Bradley was a really good one-on-one lockdown guy, but like his help, his other stuff working within the team wasn't as strong. I think Ausar really has that stuff to play like multiple different types of defense, and that I think is super valuable.
You mentioned that on our last breakdown of the guards, how you could see an Ausar at the 2, like kind of defensive smothering lineup. And I think that's where his jack of all trades kind of moldability fits in. He could play the 2, he can play the 3, obviously. He can also play small ball 4, like we talked about. And just that versatility to guard everyone from like, I mean, we don't need to go crazy, but like an Ibaka type of player to like a KCP to a Jason Tatum. And that's, yeah, like you said, that's just extremely valuable to have.
Would it, like later in the season, would a Ausar backup unit, Ausar at the 1 be something that you think you could see? Like Ausar, Burks, Livers, Harris,
acquisition.
like 3 shooters there, and like Wiseman or something. Like
I could see it.
I would-
see it.
I would definitely have to see more from his passing side of things, but like, there's no reason I'd be against that.
I feel like the handle is what I would worry about.
The handle, I
Yeah.
question the handle. The passing, not. Yeah.
But having Burks theoretically out there with him could obviously ease that load, or more.
Yeah, for sure.
Whatever.
I mean, as long as Asar's not like the guy doing all of the primary duties, then he's fine. He's great at the secondary.
Maybe not rookie year, but like if
okay.
If we eventually see some lineups 2-3 years from now, later in the year, we have a 6'7" uber athletic point guard there, or like a point guard type, secondary point guard, backup point guard.
I can see it. He'd have to really get stronger and strengthen his handle, but I could for sure see it.
I gotta say, Ausar might be the player I've most. I've gotten just so hyped on Ausar. I love his like player style and what he does. I got real amped up on him.
Yeah, no, I love Ausar, and like one of the things that I kind of liked about him in summer league was like he's that guy that like at a tournament you don't want to face because he picks you up full court. Like I noticed a couple of times that even after a made basket, he's picking the other guy up full court, making him work to get to half court, work to get to full court, shaving time off the shot clock so they have less time to run into their set. It's just little things like that I enjoy. So I'm super excited to just see how he disrupts guys and just uses his agility to just disrupt other teams' offenses and take the load off of Cade defensively, which is I think a really big plus that he's going to have for a while. Valley, your thoughts on Ausar?
In terms of Ausar Thompson's like projection for next season, you guys hit on every point. Gabe, you touched on his versatility, super underrated aspect. But we all know, like, when you think of Ausar Thompson, it's going to be defense, which will lead to fast breaks and stuff. But I want to just touch about 2 things in terms of positive, and then I'll get to a negative. One is where he seems to be at mentally. And again, this is probably a bit of a reach, but seeing a 20-year-old guy who's never played a second in the NBA go to the Rico Hines runs and say, yeah, I'll pick up Norman Powell. I'll pick up this veteran who's fantastic. And next Rico Hines footage we see, he goes, yeah, I'll pick up Russell freaking Westbrook. I'm 20 years old. I'll tell you right now, I'm not picking up Russell Westbrook. It shows tremendous character to me. And then his chemistry. There seems to be, again, this could be me picking at straws. There seems to be a certain like vibe with that five we saw at the Rico Hines runs. And I've seen a few stuff on social media. Seems like Ausar is getting along really well. And obviously, that's such a big thing for Troy Weaver. When he drafts these guys, he gets the right human beings in. And by all accounts, it looks like he's gotten that with Ausar Thompson. But it seems like there are a few like glaring negatives. You hinted at the handle, we hinted at the jumper, but it's the jumper. That's the question. I could see a season where this guy shoots 27% from deep. Gosh, who could ever shoot that bad? Am I right? Yeah. But if he's shooting that bad, my question is, where do the minutes come from? How does he really fit into this team? Obviously, there's a role with his versatility. But we've talked about it. I have a few concerns about the jumper. I think the mechanics are a bit wonky, especially having rewatched a few of his jumpers. He took a little like fadeaway mid-range jumper a few times with the Rico Hines footage. Looked really weird. It didn't even look like a jump shot, to be honest. So I want to see his mechanics as the season goes on. That's something to definitely keep an eye out for.
There's in his middies, those middies that he took in summer league, there was like no balance in the legs.
Mm-hmm.
Like good shooters always like set up well. He was like swaying, flying back. Like your upper body, yeah. I mean,
and
be more.
I don't know how much you can buy into this, but even his open threes, the shot is really flat. There's not a lot of arc on that thing, and it's kind of a set shot. So I have a lot of concerns about the jumper.
Kind of a catapult, like it's not like
it kind of just flings that thing to the rim.
Like a.
Isn't that some of the concern that we had about Ivy too as well? That it's more of a slingshot type of shot.
But like Ivy, we saw shoot in college as like the A1 guy. Ausar, everyone knows he can't shoot.
Yeah,
but I agree with Val. I don't really think his handle is going to be a problem. I don't think he's going to be dribbling the ball necessarily. I do think I don't see him scoring more than like 6-7 points per game his rookie season. I could see like a 30% from the floor, 32%, and like 21 from three. Like I think that's realistic. And I still think he could have a really good season, putting up those horrible numbers. Guys said where the minutes come from, it's just from defense. As I think we'll go through the rest of these guys, aside from maybe Livers, no one else is really a defender. So I mean that's where I think that's his bread and butter.
And like that's a modest prediction, and the stats are so bad. But like I do think that's reasonable, and I don't think it would be a disappointment. And then I wrote this down in my notes. Like I really don't mean this in a negative light, but I want him to have a similar rookie year to Stanley Johnson. Because if you take your mind back to 2016, we were all so goddamn hyped for Stanley Johnson. And then in that playoff series, he took it so personally to guard LeBron. Yeah, he got embarrassed. Like he talked his shit and we got swept. But it was close and he was competitive as hell. So a similar rookie year, but a more of a positive trajectory rather than regressing every year like the Stanimal did.
Yeah, I don't know if he a lot of the things Ausar does aren't going to show up on the stat sheet. So even if he does have low numbers, I think he can still have a successful rookie season.
Well, there's the fine line there because there's a guy I advocate for who does stuff off the box score. His name's Killian Hayes.
I'm not coming at nobody, man. I'm on your side.
Killian Hayes is an off the box score like negative as well. Like the stats that he's not putting up. Like he's bad at that stuff. He does not have the intangibles. But Ausar, like I think if he's getting 7 points a game shooting those percentages, I think that's a pretty bad season because that means he's shooting too much. But I do think he's gonna like find his way into like 4 points on back cuts here and there, 4 points on
offensive rebounds,
running it out. Like I think he could. I think he's gonna just find his way to some buckets. Like not a lot of buckets, but like he's just gonna find them.
Like Diallo.
Dig them up. Yeah, like Diallo, exactly. But he can also pass.
Yeah.
He is kind of a Diallo that can with playmaking.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of, is he in a roster yet?
No, and it shocks me.
Speaking of shocking roster moves, Rodney McGruder to the Warriors. I wonder how him and Klay Thompson are going to get along.
You better watch out for that starting spot. That's all.
Flash father.
I like that. Splash father. Any other notes on Ausar Thompson before we move on to Bojan Bogdan?
I mean, this might be a good transition topic, but I think that post deadline, depending on what happens with Bogey, he could start.
Yeah. No, I'm definitely. I feel like unless Isaiah Livers, who we will also
Yeah.
talk about later today, like steps up shooting wise, that starting spot goes to Ausar. But yeah, great transition. Next guy we're going to talk about is Bojan Bogdanovic, the guy who was rock hard consistent for us every time he walked out there. He was a great veteran leader for us. He really just kind of held the team together offensively. Defensively, whole nother story. But Connie, why don't you talk to us about Bojan?
I mean, this dude's a flat out bucket. I think any given game, not every given game, but any given game, he could go shot for shot with your favorite player. Like this man is a hooper, a 3 level scorer in the purest form. He gets buckets, and he's gonna get like in this. He got a lot of buckets for us last season. His usage from his time in Utah big time, but also upped his efficiency. He is a 3 point gunner, somebody that teams are scared of, an excellent release valve scorer, but he is the number one space creator on this team for our attacking guards. That's what first thing I gotta say.
I just like watching Bogey. You know, we gave up Kelly Olynyk, Saban Lee, and I was like, you know, I think we said it when it happened. It was almost, I think it was like a year ago today. Um, we got Bogey, and I wasn't mad at the trade at all. I mean, a shooter, and he could create a lot more than I initially thought he could. So he was our go-to guy. I think I said it on the last pod with like 10 or less seconds on the shot clock. So hopefully he remains that consistent as he does get up there in age. Gabe, your thoughts on Bogey?
I think Bogey and Burks are the only two players that we really know what they are and what they're gonna do next season. I mean, like coming in, I knew that he was a good player, a good offensive player, but I thought he was kind of a system offensive player next to Donovan Mitchell, Joe Ingles and stuff. But like, it's insane that he improved his efficiency last year. He shot 41% from three. I could see that climbing 45, 46% now, just standing in the corner, getting feeds from Ivy and Cade. Like he is legit a lethal shooter. And I love when he pump fakes and then looks at the guy flying by him and then shoots it and it always goes in. Um, I do think yeah, I do think he'll still average 20 points per game. I think he's gonna be our top scorer still. Might be kind of crazy to say. I still think he's our best ISO scorer. We'll see where Cade is at, but Bogey is just too strong for anybody who guards him pretty much. They like he just cooks everybody. And yeah, I mean, we know who he is. We know what's gonna happen. He's gonna score a lot of points really efficiently. It's just a matter of how long he stays on our team. If we're playing well, I don't think he's gonna be moved. I think we're gonna do a little playoff push with him. If we're not doing so well, I think this is the season. I mean, we talked about it like the entire year last year that he's gonna be moved to LA or, whatever team. This is the year. If we're not good, he's being moved and we're gonna get a first round pick for him.
I think you and I were both on the Grizzlies train for a minute.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's amazing how he's so slow, but he beats so many guys off the dribble. It's just crazy to me. And then he just muscles through contact and finishes. Before we get to his negatives, Valley, why don't you talk to us about some more positives about both?
I mean, yeah, bucket getting. And Gabe, you just said you don't think it's crazy that he might be our best scorer. Like, why wouldn't he be our best scorer? On paper, he's been balling as a professional for what, 15 years now, dating back to his time in Europe,
Yo,
including his European time. No, I'm pretty sure he went pro as a 17-year-old, did he not?
yeah.
Um, So he's been getting buckets his whole life, like that's how he's made a living, getting buckets. Connor, you said that he can go head to head with anyone. As soon as you said that, just off the top of my head, the game against the Lakers this year where we played in Detroit, he just got absolute fire. I think he dropped 24 points in the third quarter alone, going head to toe with LeBron, the greatest of the game. So he can do that. And I think it's just glaringly obvious what he brings, ability to score basketball. Dare I say he's the best scorer of the basketball we've had here since I don't even know who. I was gonna think of somebody. He might be one of the purest scorers of the basketball this team has ever had. I'm thinking back towards, Rip Hamilton in terms of just getting
Blake
buckets.
Griffin.
Blake Griffin.
But
Yeah.
overall, like this is a 41% 3-point shooter. And I think that's where most of his value to the Pistons comes. Yes, he can create on his own, but I think it's expected that we see a lower usage rate from him more this season, and he'll be in the perimeter more, which is going to help, like we said, the likes of Cade and Ivy so much with their dribble penetration, because Bogdanovich is just a guy you can't give a millimeter of room. And even if you don't give this guy a millimeter of room, if he catches the ball above his head, he can instantly go into his motion. Gabe doing it on the Zoom there. When he catches it above his head and just flicks his wrist.
I
So
stole that
his
shot
shooting,
from him.
it's gonna help Cade and Ivy so much. That's what he's definitely bringing to this organization.
He had a pretty big role on this team last year, right? Like we were the worst team in the league, and we needed somebody to go out and score buckets. We got a little bit different of a team here, and I think it is a huge positive to have him play with Cade because, like, one of Cade's best skills is diming to the perimeter, hitting 3-point shooters on time, on target. But be interesting to see if or how he. I think he will because he's done it. He's been a system guy before. I think he'll be all right with stepping more into a role rather than being the guy on this team, especially if we are a little bit better. But that's something that he's gonna have. Like he was a bit ball hoggy last year, and he was the best player on the team, so like it's understandable why he was ball hoggy. But he was a tad ball hoggy on the squad last year.
Oh yeah, I mean for sure understandable. I mean he probably felt like he couldn't pass to anybody else because it just wouldn't be a bucket. But didn't he keep us in that Dallas game too with his scoring, going head to head with Luca?
Oh, he was
Absolutely.
locked. He was working on the defensive end that game too.
That game too, yeah.
I like that game.
Every
Yeah.
single basketball game we won before he rested, he was the reason we won that ball game. He hit big shots in every game. Just an influential member of the offense.
Oh, for sure. And I think we were talking about it as approaching the deadline. Like, if we trade Bogey, where is the offense going to come from? Thankfully, we did not have to watch a Bogey-less offense this last season. But you kind of mentioned it, Connie. His defense against Luca was great, but I'd say that was like the peak of his defensive ability last season. Overall, he was just an Olay defender. Pretty much anybody could get wherever they wanted on the floor if he was on them. So, I mean, he's only going to get older. It's not like his defense is going to get any better, but I feel like there's hopefully a way that Monty can. I don't know if you can hide him defensively, but hopefully with guys like Ausar out there with him, you can kind of help manage that a little bit. But Connor, your thoughts on the downfalls of having Bogdanovich?
Yeah, within a system, I think he could be a better defender. But yeah, the downside is really that he's like 34, not the quickest guy. I think his offensive game ages well, but his defensive game probably won't. Uh, so it's important that the guys around him really step up because nobody was really a good defender on this team last year, and for him to be viable or more viable, the team has to be more viable. Because offensively, no question.
Another note offensively, like he was our biggest offensive threat last year, so other teams could put their best defender on him. This year, with Cade coming back, it'll probably allow maybe a lesser defender unless you have two magnificent defenders to get on the Bogey. So, I mean, if he can score over your best defender, it'll be nice to see him like just have somebody he can toy with a little bit. Gabe, your thoughts on Bogey's downfall?
Yeah, I mean it's no secret he's a bad defender, and like you said, he's a year older. The one positive is he might still be playing for another contract after this one's up, so he has to give effort on the defensive end. And I think the big men behind him are going to be, another year older in a good way, and just smarter and Duran didn't play consistently last season until kind of the latter half. Him and Isaiah Stewart should be rim protectors, rim deterrents. If, there's two people there, it's hard to kind of avoid them. So Bogey he's smart enough to, position himself so that the offensive player has to run into them. So I'm not really worried about his defensive shortcomings because he puts more points up on the other end than he gives up.
Very true. Very true. Valley, your thoughts on the downfalls or shortcomings of Bogey? If you got anything else to add, we talked about his defense a lot.
Yeah, exactly. So I'll try to go at this a bit of a different angle, and I don't know if it's a positive or it's a negative thing, but it's his trade value because it's glaring at us. Obviously, he was the guy in the most trade conversations around the deadline, and ever since then, really, to this day, he's the most involved. I guess a negative view of it would be the fact that we didn't move him, and his value is probably diminished and is diminishing by the day just because he's getting closer to expiring. But it's just I don't know. I don't know if this is positive or negative, but it's definitely something to keep an eye on as we head into the season and then into the what's the thing called?
Training camp.
Yeah, training camp, and then the place where you can't trade players anymore. Trade deadline day.
Trade deadline.
I don't know how that just flew out of my head. But awesome. Just like last year, he'll be a name to watch for around that time.
Yeah, for sure. Any other notes on Bogey before we move on to the Michigan man? All right, sweet. So go blue, first of all, Isaiah Livers, because we know you're listening. Isaiah Livers has a big season coming up for him. He's showed the ability to play defense, and he's taken the responsibility of guarding the other team's best player on multiple occasions. Problem is, as Connie's noted, can't make more than 1 3-pointer a game. So, Connie, talk to us more about Isaiah Livers.
Yeah, I mean, he really seems like he's a 3 and D guy, right? He looks the part. But that is my biggest irk on Isaiah Livers. This man has to be in perfect conditions. It can't be too humid in the stadium. It's got to be the right temperature. He likes it between 77 and 75. Ball's got to hit his left hand first, then go into his right. It's got to be a 1-2, and then he can shoot a wide open 3-pointer, and he probably hits that wide open 3-pointer. But if the weather's off, if he woke up on the wrong side of the bed, if the defender's looking his direction, he might not take it, he might not make it. Just know that he's locked in for if there's ever a FanDuel bet and it's like Isaiah Livers 1+3, however bad the odd 1+ like threes in this game, however bad the odds are, put your life savings on it. He's gonna hit his 1-3, and then if he's feeling real good, he'll hit another one. But that's a rare occasion, a blue moon.
A go blue moon. Gabe, your thoughts on Livers?
Yeah, I wrote that down as well. The biggest question mark is, can he be a consistent volume 3-point shooter? I think we all agree that we like what we've seen from him. It hasn't been too much playing time because of kind of injuries and stuff. But hopefully he's coming in healthy this year. He did have some personal issues in the summer league, so I hope that's okay. But yeah, I mean, I do think at least to start the season, because he's a little bit older, because he was in the system last year, he kind of has a rotation spot above Ausar, I think, in that like wing trust position from the coach, at least from Casey, who I assume is still pretty involved in how these games turn out, at least at the beginning of the season. His defense is great. His size is great. I know there's kind of been a debate if he should do more stuff off the dribble. He had some huge dunks last season. I'm in the camp that he shouldn't, like, sure, it's good, but like just hit threes. That's all we need you to do. What do you guys think? You think he should be like a off the dribble type of guy, a creator, or just play finisher?
I think we have enough guys on this team that have the ability to do that, to create for themselves. We just mentioned Bogey, great at it. Cade's coming back. Ivy's coming back. Darren's going to start getting a few more ISO touches, I think. Too many guys. Connie, you see it otherwise, or Amit?
I think there's not like creating, but I think having grab and go ability is important. Like not setting up a dribble move, running a pick and roll, but swing. He gets the 3-pointer. He'll throw a pump fake down, and the defender flies by him. The ability to step into a mid range pull up or just like run straight line all the way to the rim to either score or pass to another guy. I think we saw a little bit of that, and I think that's important, but within a flow of an offense, not like he's creating stuff.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, I want to see him make more than one 3-pointer a game before we start getting into him, getting more creative with the dribble. I'm with Connie. I'd like to see him be able to hit a one dribble pull up. I'd like to see him be able to drive to the rim and finish, um, and maybe run a little get action, just so that he can come off of a little DHO and shoot a three over his defender would be nice too. Because he needs, bottom line, he needs to be more consistent. I'm rooting for him for more than one reason, other than that he's the Michigan Wolverine. But I really hope that he becomes more. I hope he can stay healthy. I think that's another big question mark that he's had his entire career. So if he can stay healthy, I think he'll maybe be able to hit some more of his shots. Because I think he shot 36% on the shots that he did take last year. So it's just a question of, with his volume going up, can he keep those numbers consistent? Any other thoughts on Isaiah Livers before we move on to one of the newer Pistons on this roster?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Valley.
Okay, cool. I want to touch on what an outstanding guy Isaiah Livers is. And this is my second time saying it on the pod. But Weaver loves these guys with a good character. And Casey was a big part of getting him, and John Beeline, who is no longer with the Pistons, was a big part of getting him. But there's just so many stories. Man, I can't remember exactly what it was, but a great article by James Edwards from The Athletic about Isaiah Livers. I recall reading on Reddit over the summer, somebody met Isaiah Livers here in Ann Arbor, and they chatted for like 45 minutes. And he was so caring, and always so active in the social justice cause. He really uses that platform that athletes have to promote change. You hinted at the injury problems. That's the big thing for me. But I just want to talk about the chemistry and the vibes here. Yeah, he can shoot the ball, might not have the volume. He's injured a lot, but just purely chemistry, good guy, and vibes. He brings it to this team, which you can't sleep on.
No, you can't. Because as we've seen throughout the league, it's a lot of being a good guy doesn't hurt your team. And we've seen how many times throughout the league that problems in the locker room, problems sometimes even on the court or on the bench, have led to the downfall of many contending teams. So the more good guys you got, the better. Gabe, you had another thought on Livers too, right?
Yeah, nothing crazy. Just if Stu gets hurt again, either that shoulder or just something else, I think Livers will be the first guy to fill in that starting four. I don't think Monty's a big fan of big guys just from his history with DeAndre Ayton. So I think having just one big guy with Cade and then just shooting around him, I think he's the most probable starter, which I guess if Bogey gets hurt, possibly him as well, but I'd lead Ausar in that situation. I don't know why. But I think a few of these guys that we're talking about could be starters if things fall the wrong way, I guess, with injury luck,
Yeah, and one of those guys that could step up is Joe Harris, who is conveniently next on our list. Um, Joe Harris has been a sniper his entire career. I mean, I think we said it on the pod before. The last time he shot under 40% from three was like 7 seasons ago, and that was 39%. You're going to get a shooter, you're going to get consistency. That is if he's in the rotation. So, Connie, your thoughts on Joe Harris?
Yeah, this guy really does like one thing. Got one job, and that's to shoot the ball. If he does that job, I think there's absolutely a spot on the rotation for him because we have guys that do need space. Cade, obviously, Ivy, obviously, Ausar in the half court works a lot better with space. Duran obviously needs it for the rolls. If he's a guy that can provide space, which when he's out there, that's what he does. Teams are scared of Joe Harris 3-point shots, and he can hit them, not just easy ones. He can hit the tough shots. He can hit the curling up shots. He has a deep shooter's bag, and that's really all he does. and he does it well. I think he can absolutely, if he's healthy, he can absolutely fit into this team.
Do
Not
you think do you think he makes this rotation? I'm gonna ask all of you guys
yes,
after you finish
I
here.
would
You think he
I would
does?
be I would be surprised if he doesn't make this rotation.
I would be too. I would be too. I don't think you get a guy like Joe Harris just to let him ride the pine. Valley, give us your thoughts on Joe Harris.
Yeah. I mentioned it with Bogey, and I told you we were walking home from class today. I'm it just like an hour ago. Um, Essentially, he provides a lot of the similar qualities that Bojan Bogdanovic brings, minus a lot of self creation. Obviously not as capable of creating on his own as much, but in terms of just being a guy to be out there with Cade, with Ivy, with guys who love to penetrate, maybe even the Killian Hayes. But just a guy you just cannot leave in the corner. Like if you help off of him, you whip it to him, he's gonna knock that thing down. Which is gonna help our young guards so much. Really opening things up for him. And I think that's the number one quality he brings to this team. Does he make the rotation? Yes, absolutely. I don't know how many minutes he plays though every game. If you go on our depth chart, I probably put him at 11, but I would say there's no way a guy with his overall ability to shoot the basketball doesn't see the court on a nightly basis, even if it is for 4 minutes and then he doesn't see the court the rest of the night and the next night he gets 20. He'll be out there because his shooting is so valuable.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm excited. As fans, it's not only good for our young guard. It's good as fans for us to know that when a shot goes up, there's a good chance that it goes in for once. Gabe, your thoughts on Joe Harris?
Not much to add. I think I'm higher on him than most other people. I loved how he played in Brooklyn when they did have the stars around him. I think flat out he's the best catch and shoot shooter in the NBA, which means he's probably the best in the world. And to have him on the team, it's a great feeling. We saw what Bogey did last year. I see him in the rotation, like a 12 to 15 minute a game guy. Yeah, I'm excited to have him on the team, honestly. I want to see what he does. Even just, you know, I think he'll start a few games probably towards the end of the season when, people have their injuries. And yeah, he'll put up 1 30-point game
I can
prediction.
see that. Yeah, and now that I think about it, I think actually a guy that may slide into the starting rotation if Bogey does go down is Joe Harris, because I think a lot of the mindset was like, don't disrupt the second unit just because one guy is hurt. So instead of moving Ausar or Livers up, you keep them in the second unit, and Joe Harris gets to start. And that way, you don't lose that 40% 3-point shooting as well. Before we move on, I mentioned this lineup last week. Valley mentioned it on our walk home today. Valley, why don't you talk to us about the lineup you threw out there so we can have a little discussion on that one?
Is it the one I just proposed to you?
Yep.
Okay. And this would be just like a really select lineup. Ivy at the point guard, and his goal is just to penetrate in this. He would be out there with Joe Harris, Bojan Bogdanovic. Take your pick. I'll say Alec Burks, and then Isaiah Stewart. So it's just is that 5 or is that 6?
Yeah, that's right. You got five.
So just great shooting around Jaden Ivey, who could just go full on downhill. What do you think about that lineup?
One thing, it's a bit defensively lacking. Actually, I wrote down a lineup as well. I'll throw it out there once we're done talking about this one. Connie, were you about to say something?
Just that it would probably work on offense, and would probably work on offense just as well as if you replaced Cade and Ivy in that. But I think both of those guys just surrounded by shooters. I think that's just some really valuable. We can put out a lineup full of shooters, which is something that they just could not do last year.
Yeah, and your note is exactly what I told Valley too. I switched out Cade for Ivy, but like I'm fine with either of them out there. Like you guys said, defensively lacking, but offensively, that's a pretty good lineup.
What's that?
Yeah,
What's
what
the lineup, Gabe?
is the same thing. I just swapped. I have Cade, Morris, Harris, and then instead of Bogey, I have Livers in there, and Stu. Exact same thought, 3-point, but just a little more size, a little more defense.
I
And
I,
then
I have another lineup, totally
you
unrelated.
go.
It goes in sort of an opposite direction. This is the just beat up the other team lineup, and that's Cade, Ausar, Livers, Stu, Duran. And the smallest guy we put out there is 6'6", 200 and some pound, Cade Cunningham. And we just have like size and athleticism at each position, and they can just really punch some teams in the mouth, I think.
I love that. And according to 2K, Cade is now 6'7", Connie. So your smallest guy is now 6'7".
Even better.
Yeah. No, I love that. And if you want to go all in on the shooting, let's just go all in on it. Let's go Cade, Burks, Livers, Harris, and then Bogey at the 5. Screw defense. We
Hey,
don't
I think
need
you put
defense.
Livers at the 5. He's got the physical tools.
That's true. Yeah, you need the athleticism at the 5 spot.
if we're having fun here, Cade, Ausar, Stu, Duran, Wiseman.
You really want to run Stu at the 3, man. It was talked about. I wouldn't hate it if we're getting blown out.
Come
Just
on,
run it
man.
I
out.
would
Watch
hate
that
it.
for 3 minutes and be like, damn, this is really the worst basketball you can play.
Hey, we suffered through a 17-loss season. I can suffer through 4 minutes of Stu at the 3. I don't.
I don't
Stewart the 3 isn't the bad part.
I don't want a 2 big man lineup with Wiseman.
Okay, that's fine.
Definitely don't want a 3 big man with lineup with Wiseman.
You know what? Let's put Bagley at the 2 while we're out there.
Shit, man, you're onto something.
Any other thoughts on the guy we originally started talking about, Joe Harris, before we move into the two-way segment of the show?
I don't think
Kind of related, like what Valley said at the end about Livers, about him just like being a good guy, playing his role, fitting into the system. I think Harris fits that perfectly as well. And kind of what we were just talking about, the 2 players, the only 2 guys on this team who kind of stick out in that sense are Bagley and Wiseman. Like, just demand post-ups. They don't fit into the flow of the team. I don't see their fit at all, really. We'll talk about those guys more next time. That's just on my mind for a sec, but yeah, Joe Harris, good fit, good guy.
I love it. Little teaser for the Bigs episode. Anybody else got anything on Harris before we move on?
he's not a good defender, but I don't think it'll matter that much.
Yeah, I don't think so. If you don't think Bogey's lack of defense is going to affect us, then we should be fine with Harris as well. So let's talk about 2 guys that normally don't get a lot of discussion. The 2-way contract. I thought Cazalon was more of a guard, but Connie listed him as a wing, so I'll agree with Connie. Connie knows his stuff. So Connie, talk to us more about Jared Rhoden and Malcolm Cazalon.
I mean, I can't say too much about these guys. They fill the same space in my mind to me. They're both like 6'6", 6'7", 220 to 210, 220-pound guys. Both haven't at any point shown to be good 3-point shooters. Get most of their work off hustle. These guys are really just the same guy in different fonts to me. Obviously I haven't seen a lot of Cazalon, a little bit in the summer league, but yeah, I'm not. These are guys that probably won't be out there if we're at all a good team.
It's crazy to me how fast these guys come and go. Like, I was thinking about taking an optimistic approach to these 2-way guys, but I just take the same approach every year. You guys remember Braxton Key?
Yep.
Like, same role. Like, he's long gone now. We can go back by the year. There's these guys on the end of the bench. They have their 2 ways. And then 8 years later, you talk about him on a Pistons pod, and then you're like, oh, you remember this guy? Same thing we'll say with Rhoden and Cazalon in a few years. Eat my word. I hope I eat my words. I'm rooting for him, but I don't know. Probably not the most exciting stuff to talk about here.
They go from 2-way to a trivia answer in a second. Valley, Cazalon and Killian Hayes have some similarities, so Cazalon may be taking Killian Hayes' spot soon if we don't be careful.
What, are they both garbage basketball players?
They're both lefties. They both played for France, and they're both 6'5", 6'6", 200-something pounds. The notes I'll make is Jared Rhoden. Valley, you and I were watching, oddly enough, Killian Hayes highlights the other day in Atlanta. We saw him hit Rhoden cutting across the key and hit like this little mid-range free throw line extended fading shot that he made. So like if he could like hit those consistently, he may have something out there. I remember a few games where he was out there and he was just firing away, and like Kelster said it on multiple occasions, and it kind of became his thing. Rhoden is not bashful. Like if he gets the ball and he wants to shoot the ball, he's going to shoot the ball. So he needs to really start making shots if he actually wants to be in the NBA. But as for Cazalon, lefty showed us some pretty deep range in summer league, so I don't hate the pick. I heard somewhere that I think teams get a third two-way position. So my guess would be Buddy Bojan because he showed out in summer league, and I'd like for him to actually get another chance to make some shots because I know he can shoot. He just didn't make anything when he got the chance. Any other thoughts on Rhoden or Cazalon?
Yeah, that's actually a name I wanted to bring up. Buddy Bayham was in my group of these guys. It's kind of like I think one of these guys will be the end of the bench player. I'm kind of leaning towards Buddy because he went insane in summer league. The commentators loved him. And I was actually surprised kind of that you said Cazalon couldn't shoot, and then I looked it up and he can't. But he is shooting pretty well in summer league, and I think of the guys, he's actually the one I have the most hope for. But again, it's like I don't know who's another Kim English type of guy. Like I don't actually expect anything, but like
that was a wild one. Kim English. I believe he's a high school basketball coach. Completely off topic, but yeah.
Yeah, when I was making this list, I didn't actually know if Rhoden was on our team still or not. So I guess that's kind of where he stands with me. That's it.
That's fair. You guys remember who our 2A was last year, year before? Guy who went to Georgetown. I'm just wondering if you guys remember his name.
Colleges don't help me out.
Nah, Jamarco Pickett.
Jamarco. He's somewhere too, isn't he?
Yeah, I don't know where he is, but
that's my guy.
Oh man, see, I told you went from 2A to trivia question like that. Any other notes on any random 2-ways out there, or any other guys that we're talking about today, or if you just want to throw a random comment out, throw it out there.
A guy who's not in the NBA anymore. He's a former Piston guard, Langston Galloway. I DM'd him on Instagram in hopes that he would help me out with this class project I was working on, and he read the message and didn't respond.
Why are you outing Langston Galloway on the pod?
We used to have a great relationship. He responded to my text when I texted him, "Welcome to Detroit." Which, Gabe, I feel like you told me.
He did too. Yeah, he did too.
Yeah, that's why I thought, hey, you know what? But man, F. Langston.
I guess he doesn't say more than thank you.
What are you gonna ask him to do?
It was for our sports psychology class. The option was either analyze this fat research article or just ask a professional athlete these 4 questions. So I was gonna do that, but it didn't work out.
We ended up researching the fat research article anyway. It was brutal. But yeah, enough about the struggles of Michigan students. Any other notes on the struggle of being a Pistons fan? No? All right. I think we struggled enough on the Pistons tonight, but thank you guys so much for listening to this episode of the Buff Sound Podcast. Follow us on social media, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and be on the lookout for our part 3 of the season previews where we talk about the bigs. But until then, throw the Buffs on, Detroit. The future is bright.